Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Cuban Libertarian. Today we have a special topic. We're going to talk about Ariel, Ruiz, Urquiola, and the UN. But first, please let me introduce my co-host, Iskra Perez Salcedo. Hi, Iskra. How you doing?
Hi, Ricket. How are you? Thank you for
Excellent.
having me. Thank you for having me in your channel. This is an important subject that we're going to talk about today, and the times, and it's especially important because of the times that we're living in today. We're talking about human rights, and this is a very, very special subject for us Cubans, but it should be for everyone. Not just for us. So this is why it's so important to share these topics with our audience today. So I'm excited about today's topic. Uh,
Awesome.
my na- my name is Iskra. For those, let me introduce a little bit of my background. I am Cuban, as you can see the capital behind me. I was born in Havana, and I came through the Mariel in 1980 through the Mariel boat lift in 1980 to the States, and I have been here since. But definitely looking at in helping in any way we can to free our country in every way that we can contribute to that. We do every day. So thank you for having me, and I hope to continue to get become more involved in not just your channel, but in any way I can across.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Um, this is something that not just affects the Cuban people, right? the the,
absolutely.
f- the fact that the UN Human Rights Council and just the organization in general ignores a lot of human rights violations
Yeah.
all across the globe, not just in the
Mhm.
Caribbean, in our country of origin, but you can talk about China being in the Human Rights Council, Saudi Arabia being in the Human Rights Council. I think Iran applied and Venezuela. Uh, so all these dictatorships, all these regimes that systematically and just routinely destroy people's lives, and at
And
the same
violate.
time, at
And
the
we
same
have
time,
Yeah, and we have
purport to
proved
be
that, yeah, exactly. And we have proved that they have violated over and over human rights. And the fact that this this organization that's supposed to be protecting those rights is ignoring these issues is really, um, bothersome, and it should be bothersome not just to us but to the world.
to the
So
world. Exactly.
yeah, we definitely need to get this information out there, and people need to be informed.
Awesome. So first, then, let's go ahead and go to today's topic. Now, as a little intro, we're going to play for you the intervention of Professor Ariel Ruiz Urquiola, who is a Cuban professor that had to go on a hunger strike in front of the UN Council of Human Rights in order for them to let him speak. All
Okay.
right. Let me go ahead and share my screen right now. Excellent. And this is what he said.
Señoras relatores,
Madam Special Rapporteur, thank you very much indeed for your important visit to Cuba in 2019, where you addressed the human rights abuses.
Stop your intervention. I see Cuba has a point of order. Please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Vice President. We are speaking on a point of order
Here we
in line
go.
with Article 113 and the Rules of Procedure of the United Nations General Assembly. At the current time, we are hearing from supposed representatives of the NGO Ingénieurs du Monde. However, the public information which exists on these people and on that organization would indicate that this person is not a member of that organization. Therefore, under Article 7 of the Human Rights Council Rules of Procedure, which states that participation of NGOs shall be based on the provisions, in particular, of Resolution 1196/31 of the Economic and Social Council and the practices observed by the Human Rights Council, we request that the accreditation of this person be immediately reviewed and that this be done in line with the established procedures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have been informed that the speaker
Right.
has been accredited in conformity with the established procedures.
This is
NGOs
only a
must also
90-second
status
speech that he
with the
has.
Economic and Social Council of the United Nations.
Let's see how
And
many times they
accredit
interrupt
the
him.
persons of their choosing.
Mm.
Complaints about the conduct of an NGO should be addressed to the NGO committee of ECOSOC.
So up to there, he did
Now I
everything
give the floor
correctly.
to speaker. Please.
Yeah, no, he has the right.
Son enviados por el gobierno a trabajar al extranjero en condiciones desventajosas, violando el pacto internacional.
Migrants are sent abroad by organizations, and the impact of
Please stop your intervention. I see the Cuba is asking for the floor.
Number 2.
Lamento interrumpir.
I regret to interrupt once again, sir.
He regrets nothing.
We take the floor again on a point of order and line with Article 113 of the United Nations Rules of Procedure, the General Assembly. The person taking the floor has referred to issues which are outside of the agenda of the Human Rights Council, which are currently being discussed at this time. We are on the interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on trafficking in persons. Examining the
Yes,
systematic
trafficking in
support of that
persons.
rapporteur with a human rights-based approach to trafficking.
Yes.
Eradicating a criminalist approach. Now,
That's what Cuban doctors
we
are.
believe that these speakers trying to create a link between the medical situation in Cuba and trafficking in persons, and we believe this is completely unacceptable and alien to this debate. We have insisted on this and other occasions that the agenda of the Council must be respected. Therefore, it is not possible for the work of this body to be manipulated by persons outside of this body who base groundless accusations and violations of resolution that is 01 of ECOSOC, paragraph 57A. Therefore, we request that the relevant procedures be complied with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that Venezuela also asked for the floor. Please.
Gracias, señor vicepresidente.
Thank you, Vice President.
Venezuela
would
now.
like to support Cuba's
What a
point of
coincidence.
order.
Right.
We recognize the contribution made by civil society organizations who, in a constructive way, take part in the Council's work with a view to enriching their substantive discussions under this agenda item 3. But in this particular situation, the speaker is out of order as he is using the space given to him to make comments against a state of the member of this body. Moreover, the use of language is inappropriate as it is used right now addressing the Human Rights Council, and therefore we would like to not allow this, and we call on the speaker to remedy his behavior, and if he fails to do so, we would like his right to speak to be withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is China.
Oh, another one. Another friend.
You think this was planned?
Thank you, Vice President.
All right.
China supports the point of order submitted by Cuba. We hope that relevant speakers will not deviate from the content of our meeting and abide by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. China hopes that the President will make a fair judgment in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that Australia also asked for the floor, please.
All right.
Our only friend.
President, Australia generally supports
Right.
the right of civil society to participate in the Human Rights Council, and we would urge you to consider allowing them to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia.
Yes.
Land down
I
under.
don't see any further requests for the floor. Okay, I see Eritrea.
Vice President. My intervention is to see whether or not we're talking about the participation of civil society. We all understand the participation of civil society is
I
important.
don't know why Eritrea is in there.
However, it should be in line with the agenda that we're talking about. We're now talking about special rapporteurs issues, and particularly this agenda deals with a subject matter that we do not have to derail ourselves from. So this is exactly the point. It's not about having blocking civil societies, but civil society should act in accordance to the laws and procedures of the General Assembly and this Council, and it should be relevant to each and every item that we talk with. There is an item particularly debated and particularly devoted for what the intervention was about. He can say it there. This civil society can use the space and the subject whenever it is appropriate. This is the point of order, and we support the point of order when it is exactly substantiated by this kind of argument. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently holding the interactive dialogue on the report of the Special Rapporteur on trafficking of human beings, especially women and children. Questions or comments stemming out of the report or statement are in order. In this context, speaker may refer to specific situations by way of example. I ask the speaker to focus on the issue under discussion. With this in mind, I give the floor back to the speaker.
Dinero recaudado no benefician la salud.
They do not benefit from healthcare or cancer treatment or the high resolution diagnosis as occurred with patient number 322597, my sister, who was denied immunotherapy.
I see Cuba is asking for the floor.
Again.
6 negative interventions.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is ever more clear that there is an intention to manipulate this space and use it to discuss issues that do not fall under the agenda item. We cannot allow this. We need to respect the Council, respect the rules of procedure, and respect your authority as President. So we do ask you to act in accordance with the circumstances. Thank you.
Look at how these socialists use bureaucracy to block
Thank you. I see
genuine
that,
human rights concerns.
Delegation of North Korea, I think it's asking for the floor.
Who is that?
Thank you, Vice President. The DPRK delegation, the full
Another
support
friend.
of the point of order by Cuba. I thank you.
Oh, that was North Korea.
Yes.
Jesus.
These 2 points of order, I will
Do you
ask
see a
again,
pattern here?
please do focus on the issue under discussion.
Horrible. This is horrible.
Ya sea por falta
This is because there was a lack of medication and the use of a placebo instead of the active substance, and this was a means of torture, and she was forced to...
I see that Cuba is asking for the floor.
Again.
8.
President, thank you very much. We could spend our entire day here in this situation, which is extremely unpleasant, but we will not allow for the agenda to be trampled upon. It is a lack of respect vis-à-vis the Special Rapporteur who is listening to the debate remotely, and it is disrespectful to all the members of the Council. We will not allow any violation of the rules of procedure. So please act as according to procedure. Thank you.
That's fine. I see Australia is asking for the floor.
Thank you, Vice President. I'll just add that the speaker has not yet finished and Ms. should be given the opportunity to connect his speech to the topic of this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, while the beginning of the statement is relevant to the issue under discussion, the latter part is not. I invite the speaker to focus on the issue under discussion. With this, I give the floor back to the speaker.
para reprimir al ciudadano cubano de a pie.
These funds are used to crack down on your average Cuban citizen under a regime of modern slavery and to resume with the...
Can you stop, please? I see that Cuba is asking for the floor.
Gracias, President.
Thank you, President. I would like to ask you,
9.
with all your authority to steer this debate, up until when are we going to allow such lack of respect to be shown in this council? Thank you.
I would like to ask the speaker. You have last 5 seconds. Please finish your statement, and then we continue with another speaker.
Sociedad cívica, como en el caso del
Civic society, as was the case of patient 2321 in the provincial hospital.
Time is up. Time is up. I think its time is up. We will continue with the next speaker. Next.
And there you
So
go.
there you have it, folks. The man was stopped 9 times, including Venezuela, Eritrea, China, North Korea, and of course, Cuba. What are we talking about here? The day that you cannot make a human rights plea at the Human Rights Council.
And
Because the country that's oppressing you is stopping you from making the accusation. This is insane.
But not only that, I mean, people don't know what it took for him to get there. So it took a hunger and thirst strike, being off his HIV medication for 5 complete days. We almost lost him being in front of the UN building, waiting to get an appointment, and only to be, interrupted 9 times. And his speech was
90-second speech. Yeah.
Yeah.
That another organization, the engineers, what was it? The something engineers of the world, I think it was.
Yeah, engineers of the world. Yes.
Right.
That's the UN. Give him their spot.
They gave him like some of their time that they had.
Correct.
And a fun fact is that while he was on the hunger and thirst strike, Michelle Bachelet, which is the president or the chairperson of the Human Rights Council, walked right by him. I didn't acknowledge him at all. Okay? Which for some might seem shocking, but for others, if you know that she was the president of Chile via the Socialist Party of Chile, and she obviously cavorts with Maduro and Fidel and everybody else that's doing all the wrong things in the world, it might not be so surprising, right? But just to let you know that that person is the chairperson of the Human Rights Council. Now, I'm going to read you the speech that he actually meant to say without interruption, okay?
Yes.
Here we go. Madam Special Rapporteur, thank you very much for your important plea to Cuba on November 6, 2019, where you addressed the abuse of human rights suffered by Cuban doctors when they are sent by the government to work abroad in disadvantaged conditions, violating the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The impact of this exploitation on the Cuban public health system has many victims, because the monies collected do not benefit healthcare, nor first-line cancer treatments, nor high-resolution diagnostic tests, as has happened with patient 322597, my sister, who stopped receiving immunotherapy either because of lack of medications or because of the use of placebos instead of the active ingredient. This was done as a torture method to break her, until she was then expelled from her post as a professor at the University of Havana. These monies are used to repress the average Cuban citizen, also under the regime of modern slavery. To resume, with dissenters like myself, patient 2321, who was inoculated with HIV in the Pinal del Rio Provincial Hospital on June 25, 2018, due to my disagreement with the university curriculum, with the pipette in the laboratory and the hoe in the furrow, because of wanting to build a better civic society. I asked the United Nations, how long will the crimes against humanity by the Cuban government remain with impunity? Thank you very much to the citizens of this world.
Yeah, so it's so going back to Michelle Bachelet, I want to make sure that there's one thing we didn't talk about. The beginning of June of this year, actually, 500 activists signed a letter that was mailed to her, which she requesting that that she makes the Cuban government, adhere by the human rights, by the international human rights, and she has yet to return any of those messages or any letters in response to that, letter. Those were 500 signatures, and I don't know if you remember this. This was signed in Miami,
Right.
and it was posted everywhere. And she has yet to, respond to that letter for the request. And and here we are, 2 months later. This is going on. To give you a little bit of background on who Ariel Urquiola is, basically he's a biologist who during his time at the university started to basically, thinking a little different from what the current curriculum looked like. And so because he started thinking differently and descended from their ideas, then they started singling him out, right? So there is we wanted to share with you the change.org that we have out here. He's basically that gives you the case where he was involved. He's an environmental activist from the LGBTQI community. He's a human rights activist. He continues to be systematically a violent political repression of the Cuban regime. He is, my God, this poor soul has gone through so much.
Go ahead and read it for us.
Yes, before the arbitrary of imprisonment, Dr. Ruiz Urquiola went to the amnesties in Switzerland to ask for his protection. Who forwarded to the central headquarters in London. The headquarters dismissed his request after having undervalued the gravity of the situation and judging it unimportant and unfounded. A few months later, on his return to Cuba, he was beside detained and in prison. Amnesty International waited until the unfortunate moment that to launch a campaign for his release, but at this point, the aid came too late. Your inactions did not prevent his arbitrary arrest and others that have followed since. So basically, and I don't know if it talks about, but during his arrest there, and I don't want to go into, basically they're saying, once again, in accordance with the purpose of this institution, we ask for your protection of Dr. Ariel Urquiola, through Amnesty Belgium. Once again, we are referred to London office in case his case has been dismissed, once again to the pretext that Amnesty International lacks the capacity to handle the case, even when there are volunteers ready to support his campaign, willing to give their time. So again, we continue to have all these
right there. Read in his hunger and thirst for his own liberation.
Yeah. So and to present a turn. So surely we will not wait for Dr. Urquiola to go to prison, returned to his with another hunger and thirst strike, given the impunity with which Cuban regime works, or even die before your office finds the ability to help us in his campaign to protect. So this is where he decides to then go into his hunger and thirst for his own liberation. In 2018, Dr. Urquiola was the victim of a crime against humanity. There are scientific evidence by Swiss and German doctors in the reconstruction of the facts indicates that Dr. Ruiz Urquiola would have been infected with HIV virus during the period of his in a hospital in the Cuban public health system. Transmissions through sexual intercourse, blood transfusions, or infected needles were discarded, pointing to an intentional pure inoculation.
That's right.
Wow.
That means that because with science now, you can tell how much by the amount of virus and how fast the disease progresses. You can tell if you were injected, if you were contaminated by some blood that got in your mouth or your bloodstream, if it was through sexual intercourse, or if it was somebody with like a special HIV developed strain of HIV that actually inoculated like half a gallon of HIV into your veins, basically, right? Or through what they had him on a drip because he was on a hunger and thirst strike, so they had him on an IV line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they inoculated HIV while he was in the hospital, in the prison hospital.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, this change.org is requesting for protection on his person because he's in danger. And so, I mean, they're asking for his protection. And so we do ask that anyone out there that has, that cares about human rights, period. You don't have to care about anything else but human rights. Needs to definitely sign this, this petition because it's. And one thing I want to point out that when Ariel went in front, this has taken it to a whole new level because the fact that he made it to the UN and that he was sort of heard, his case was sent out there. He was not just speaking about himself; he was speaking about all Cubans in the island. This is not just the one case, not one person. This is being done to anyone that talks against the current government. So we're not just talking about a single case, and he wasn't exposing just his case as a whole. He's exposing everyone that are victims out there.
And let's not forget that his sister it's a separate case because
obviously
she had a very aggressive breast cancer. She was denied proper treatment by the Cuban healthcare system.
That's right.
But there's a little detail there that in that cohort, because there were other women that had breast cancer at the same time that she did and were getting the treatment.
Yes.
The only one that survived out of that cohort was Ariel's sister because Ariel did not give up.
Right.
Ariel went to the hospital, went to the laboratory, did his own test, refuted what the doctors were saying, which was, oh, we have given her treatment. Oh, no, the cancer is doing better now, etc., etc. And he said, no, you're wrong. You're not giving her the right drugs. You need to do this. You need to intervene right now. You need to operate. He had to find another surgeon and prove to that surgeon, hey, look at the studies that I've done. Look at the different scans that I have, a diagnostic test that I have done. Because Ariel is a biologist, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And he was able, by his own gumption, with help from other doctors and just scientists outside of Cuba, to give her some medicine sometimes, or was able to get a treatment for his sister out of like the charity of others, right?
Right.
And that's why she was the only one out of all those women in that cohort that survived her breast cancer. All the other women are dead.
And I think it's important to point out that that's when he started seeing how the healthcare system is so corrupted, where only certain treatments are for certain people, not for all, as they say, because the world seems to think that Cuban people have free health system for all. Well, he started figuring out that was not the case, and that's when he started becoming an activist against the healthcare system, because obviously they went through it themselves and realized, now this is wrong. Why are you charging me for money when this is supposed to be something that's free? Why do I have to get certain things when the government is supposed to give it to me for free, and now you're telling me you don't have it, but if I give you some money then you do have it, all of a sudden. So is it free or not free? I don't understand.
and there's actually something else, that his problems with the government in general start because he is an environmentalist, and he discovered while doing his thesis and his investigations that Cuba's environment and Cuba's native species were being decimated and had been decimated because of the policies and the corruption in the Cuban government. So that's when he first starts having trouble with the government, and then they cause trouble for him in the university. After that, he goes up to the mountains and creates a sustainable farm. He brings back native species. He's actually creates like an irrigation system for that environment that has very little impact. He's raising cattle, he's raising chickens, he's planting different types of crops. He's helping the farmers around the area.
And then again, the government comes back and
they trample the crops, they poison the animals, and then they arrest him because he spoke back to the officers that were always constantly harassing him, and that's when he goes to jail.
So a whole year in jail for just talking back
to
the officials. And I don't know, but that's a misdemeanor in our country, so I don't know what.
It's insane.
It truly is. But the focus, I think we need to focus on, why is an organization like the United Nations that is supposed to be helping keep international human rights not doing their jobs?
Yes.
What do we need? What needs to be done? What do we need to do as citizens and part of that organization? Because we need to make sure that this doesn't continuously happen, because it is continuously happening, and it wasn't just the one case. So what can we do as citizens to prevent this from happening? And how can we, what can we do? And I know that there are some tags out there on Twitter. I believe you have some.
I think it's Justice for Ariel. Let me put it here in my.
Well, that's Justice for Ariel, and then the defund of the United Nations. It's.
That's right. Yes.
Yep. So we're going to share this this change.org so that everybody can.
So you should see it right here.
Okay, yes, okay.
Right,
so there are two tags, right? So we got Justice for Ariel. I got it. Yep. Justice for Ariel and defund the UN, and we need to tweet. We need to tweet to everybody that you can, and get this word out there, and do as much as we can on our end and continue to talk. I had a conversation not too long ago with with someone from Jamaica stating that, you know, that why was the U.S., you know, not letting Jamaica, well, because there are some U.S. governors that want to impose penalties on other countries who are using the Cuban doctors. And
Right.
so,
Okay.
okay, yes. So they're like, why is the U.S. government getting into this? And there's a reason, and the reason is because our doctors are being enslaved. This is modern day slavery. Yeah, if if you don't know what's happening, please, you need to go out there and research. And we're going to have some doctors in here, and we're going to interview them, because I want everybody to know firsthand what those stories are like and what these doctors have to go through during their missions. Because yes, they are heroes, but they are not treated well. They are sent to the worst possible areas, in rural areas in the world. They are exposed to, my goodness, everything, and truly, they're being sold as. So this is a human trafficking issue as well. I mean, this is horrible that we're, in today's society, there are still people being used the way our doctors are being used.
That's correct. And let's not forget that Bolivia expelled Cuban doctors because most of them, like I want to say 75%, were not even doctors. They were there, they were agents, government agents.
Right.
Say something similar has happened in Peru now. The doctors were found not to be up to the standards of the medical needs of that country.
Right.
So now there's inquiries as to why did that government hire those doctors without checking if they had the requisite credentials. Same thing in Italy. The Cuban doctors don't know how to use the equipment. They refuse to, help with COVID. They're not up to the task, right? In Venezuela, it's also known that those doctors are agents. A lot of them are agents, or they're required to proselytize. So, for example, when a Venezuelan person goes to the Cuban doctor, the Cuban doctor, heals them or whatever, or gives them a prescription, and then says, "Oh, and be thankful. Remember to be thankful to the Bolivarian Revolution or whatever, and vote for Chavez or Maduro because they're the ones that have given you healthcare." Like, is that the job of a doctor?
Right.
And just the clincher, there's hundreds of Cuban doctors in Mexico now.
Yes.
In the
yes.
right across the border. So
yes.
don't think that this is not coming or that they're not already here. We are surrounded,
Yes.
So think about that, and yeah, we'll keep putting out the truth about the situation and other situations like it.
Yes.
Iskra, thank you so much for your time. You've been great.
No.
And I thought we'll get together again and expose some other crazy
Absolutely.
crazy things going on.
Absolutely, we definitely need to continue to expose, and I think it's a great idea, because I think there's a lot of exposure on the Hispanic side, and like you and I talked, we need to expose more in the English native language, so that people understand, because a lot of my friends don't have enough information about what's going on, not just in Cuba, but in all of these socialist countries around the globe. And it's become more and more evident that this is growing every day more, and it's hitting very close to home. And
Definitely.
so we need to get this information out there as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, audience. And until next time. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.